pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our next item is council reports, and I'll just start it with Kevin and work this way.
I have Mason Transit meeting coming up on third Tuesday of the month, and at 4 o'clock over at the Transit Center. I didn't really write down anything tonight, what I was supposed to be doing this week. There are several items, but I didn't bring them with me tonight, so I'll just leave it at that. I'm not feeling so hot tonight.
I had 2 meetings on Wednesday the 16th with citizens. I had an all-day council retreat on the 17th. I went to the Wave of Perfection at Little Creek Casino. That was a great function, by the way. I have a meeting with, I had a meeting with another citizen on the 21st. I went to Public Works Week downtown here. And 24th, we have a chamber lunch, a briefing, and an EDC function. I'm sorry, that already passed. I missed the EDC function. And the 29th, we have a council meeting, and the 31st, a briefing, and I have a meeting with Commissioner Drexler on the triage center.
My name is Gary Krantz, and I'm the past mayor of the city of Shelton. And the past couple of weeks, I've been kind of relaxing and taking it easy. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate that. I've been meeting with citizens and talking. Tom Davis and I have talked several times and stuff. The first week is usually kind of slow on our normal meetings and stuff. And what we have is approximately 14 different groups like the Chamber of Commerce and the EDCs and MACECOMs and criminal justice and, you know, all these things. And we will be dividing these different groups up here probably shortly. So the ones that I have been attending, I may not be attending those in the future. And there has been some interest with a few of us, I think, on different ones. And so we're going to be at some point delegating all those different activities out. But we're always doing staff briefings when they arise, and that completes my information. Thank you.
Thank you. I spent the last week, actually got away for a few days, and I appreciate Deputy Mayor Peterson for filling in. This upcoming week, I'm also meeting with County Commissioner Drexler on the Triage Center, participate in the Forest Festival Parade, and probably partake in all the activities. And I'm also meeting with Chief McCurran tomorrow, just to talk things over and look through the emergency plan.
Okay. As for myself, I'll be attending tomorrow night's Downtown Connector final project meeting, 6 o'clock here. Then on Thursday, I have my briefing in the morning with Bob and staff, a citizen meeting hopefully that afternoon, and another meeting with Commissioner Drexler regarding the evaluation center. Saturday, June 2nd, the Forest Festival Royalty Court breakfast and the parade, of course, and then June 5th is our next council meeting.
Tomorrow evening is the Connect project at 6 p.m. in the main room. Last Wednesday, I had my Memorial Hall board meeting, briefing with Vicki and Bob. I had a meeting with a constituent. My left board meeting on the 5th next week, Forest Festival activities this weekend, and that's my schedule.
Good evening. Last week attended the EDC membership drive on Thursday. We also had our weekly staff briefing. Attended the all-day budget workshop. Not budget workshop. Attended the all-day staff workshop on the 17th. Plan to attend the Downtown Connector meeting as well tomorrow, and also the budget workshop this Thursday afternoon.
Thank you, council members, for your reports. It's now time for general public comment. Donna, has anyone signed up?
Yes.
Okay.
We first have Marilyn Bogler. I wanted to speak to a specific action item. Oh, I see that. General public.
Good evening. My name is Lee Fraser. I've been a citizen in this town since '92, which probably for some of you is just a newcomer. But I've been here a good portion of my adult life. I'm also a Vietnam vet. I'm an Agent Orange victim. I have diabetes, breathing problems, bone problems, and I feel lucky because I'm not one of the vets living in their cars, living under trees and bushes, in the backs of buildings, under air conditioning units. And I read with, at first, dismay and then with a great deal of anger, the fact that this city was considering putting dump trucks ahead of the well-being of these young men and women who have risked their lives for all of us. I came home to a miserable environment, but I wasn't homeless. I can't imagine coming home, having problems that they have. I work at the VFW 3 days a week as a service officer. Can't even imagine what it's like for these young men and women. And I say young, I'm 68. They might be 48. We have guys that so need to be able to sleep feeling secure, needing to be able to lock a door. And as bad as we have it for the men, imagine being a woman living on these streets. Horrendous. So I hope that you can work out something with my friend Tom here over this project that I'm so interested in, though not a part of directly, to help these people find some peace in their life because they risked all, and quite frankly, short of dying, and maybe it would have been better, they gave all. And they've come home to a disaster that they can't fix. They need our help. And I hope that you can see your way clear to do that instead of building a new shop. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's only general public.
Okay. Thank you very much. We move on to the consent agenda. Are we ready for reading the consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Please read.
Voucher numbered 17558 in the amount of $7,788.46. Vouchers numbered 17563 through 17662 in the amount of $819,536.29. Minutes from the business meeting of May 1st, 2018.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
I make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, consent agenda is accepted as read. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's no business agenda on tonight's meeting, so we're going to move right into action items. The first action item, Mark Ziegler is going to share some information about repairs needed at the William G. Library.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Bring to you today a draft contract with Foster & Williams Architects for preparation of bid and construction documents for the William G. Reed Library. This is a grant-funded project through the state capital appropriations that our 35th district reps were so integral in getting funding for the city of Shelton for these necessary repairs. For some time, we've been deferring maintenance and work on the library, specifically regarding roof repairs, deck repairs, which is not open to the public due to the conditions out there, a new paint job, and installation of gutters. This project was funded at about, $288,297 to the state capital appropriation. This is the first step in moving forward with this project with your approval of the contract with Foster & Williams Architects. We went through the competitive bid process for architects and engineers and followed the policy and RCWs appropriately and selected a local architect who actually designed the library originally. So they have a great deal of knowledge with that building and should help us out tremendously in moving forward.
Okay, questions, oh, excuse me, comments from the, no
No
questions?
public comments.
No public comments, thank you, Donna. Questions, comments from the council?
Craig, about how long has that deck been out of repair? I mean, not used? It's not
Mark.
safe.
As I believe about 5 years, we've
About
had it
5?
closed to the general public. It's not necessarily in jeopardy of anybody going through it in a lot of areas. There is some rot, and it's continuous degradation with water intrusion. It's got a membrane surface. It's not your typical wood decking or wood slatting, so it's got a membrane that has failed in some areas. So we've got the sheeting underneath that is starting to
And
rot.
it's probably a wood railing too, or some
It's a
sort.
wood railing, exactly right. And we have some downspouts that come down through the deck itself. So there's some areas that need to be addressed.
Are you looking at wood again, or are you looking at a different product that would?
That's part of the agreement with the architect. They will do their due diligence to find the right products for long-term maintenance and
Okay.
operation of that facility.
Mark, could you discuss scenarios if the bid, construction bid, which we're ahead of it now,
Yeah.
but comes in higher than the grant, or unforeseen conditions come up?
So we'll certainly prioritize the needed repairs. The estimates were based on some local contractors giving us estimates for deck repair, painting, roof replacement. So we've kind of built that. That was within the last year and a half or so. So the bidding climate has changed a bit, but we will prioritize the projects. The roof will come first. That obviously, water intrusion will continue the degradation of the facility, so that's first and foremost on the list. And then we'll move on down the list to the deck repairs, potentially painting and gutter replacement after that. So we'll certainly approach the roof first and get that done, and then with the funds available, we'll move on down the list and have a contingency plan with the architect in order to continue to preserve the facility as best we can.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
But we'll work within budget.
Any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion? Excuse me. Do we have a motion to?
I move to approve the professional service contract with Foster & William Architects for preparation of construction and bid documents for the repairs at William G. Reed Library by authorizing the mayor to sign.
Okay.
We have a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. The next business item, or action item, excuse me, is Department of Public Works Director has some information about some funding changes for the C Street landfill.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. We are looking to move some money out of what is Task 3, the feasibility study of the C Street landfill cleanup, to the assessment and remedial investigation portion. Most of, if not all at this point, of the Task 2 monies have been spent to date, and we are looking to move some money from Task number 3 to Task 2. There is no change to the overall funding source from Department of Ecology. We have gotten an updated cost estimate from Aspect Consultants that totals to get us through the entire remedial investigation and come up with an action plan to actually close out. And that total is $232,000. So we will be looking for some additional funding. I have met with Rebecca Lawson from Department of Ecology, and we have talked about grant funding and the opportunity for that. We were denied this year for the biennium, but there have been apparently some projects that have not gotten off the ground that
They have given some money back to Department of Ecology, so there are some funds available at this point, and we have sent the updated cost estimate for the actual design to get to a closeout and the construction period. And like I said, that construction, or that cost to get to that point is $232,000 at this point, which we do not have funding for. So we are looking for some grant options with that. We also, if push comes to shove, we do have some end fund balance that we could use out of the solid waste utility to move forward with the remedial investigation to meet the agreed order of the court.
Thank you, Craig. Public comments on this?
Yes, now we'll have Marilyn Vogler.
All I had was a question and Craig answered it, so I don't need time at this point. Thank you.
Nice job, Craig.
Thanks.
Council member comments, questions for Craig Gregory?
No.
Nobody has anything?
Okay. Can we have a motion, or ask for a reading, this is a motion. Do we have a motion? Do we have a motion about the C Street landfill?
I move to approve the C Street landfill action grant amendment number 2, transferring part of the funds allotted for task 3 to task 2 by authorizing the mayor to sign addendum number 2.
Second.
Second.
Okay, good. Second, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Back to Director Gregory on a vacation of public right-of-way, resolution number 11270518.
Thank you again, Mayor. Again, we talked about this a week ago, actually. But the vacation of the north 20 feet of Railroad Avenue between 11th and 12th. This is a project that we have pre-subbed. They have come in and showed us exactly what they're looking at. And it was brought forward by staff to vacate that merely for aesthetics and alignment of the roadway and parking. Also, the sidewalks and storefront would align with all the buildings from Front Street all the way out to 10th at this point. So we are asking that we do this vacation to make that alignment and stay consistent up and down Railroad Avenue.
Okay. Donna, any public comments on this
No public.
item? Okay. Input, questions, comments from council?
Craig, they're going to, says here, they're going to provide on-street parking and an
That is-
8-foot sidewalk?
That is correct, and that would be a requirement whether it
An
was a
ADA
vacation or not. Yes, and that would be a requirement
And
of the
that's by the
project.
requester?
Excuse me?
Is that's by the, it's not by the city, it's by the requester?
That's correct. That would be by the proposed project going in there would be a requirement to meet those standards, which they are city standards. That 8-foot sidewalk on that side of a main arterial and on-street parking being consistent up and down Railroad Avenue.
Good.
Question, Craig. Would it be normal for a contingency to be placed on that vacation as far as them requiring to be, their construction to move forward and not, not fail on that?
Yes, it most certainly would. That is something we have talked to them about, and every vacation that we've looked at in the past and moving forward in the future is those contingencies. We certainly don't want to vacate that portion of the roadway if they're not going to move forward with a project. So likely if we decide to move forward with this vacation, that we wouldn't actually file it, we would prep it to make sure that we were ready to go as soon as they had a final building permit and they were moving forward with their project, and then we would actually file it with the county and execute that vacation. But that would certainly be a contingency or a requirement for that vacation, is that they certainly move forward with the project, and we don't actually move forward with the vacation until they have an approved building permit.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, can I have resolution 1127-0518 read, please?
Yes. Resolution number 1127-0518, a resolution of the City of Shelton, Washington regarding a request to vacate the north 20 feet of Railroad Avenue from 10th to 11th.
Do you have a motion on the resolution?
I move to deem the property surplus and set the public hearing for this matter for Tuesday, June 19th, 2018 by adopting resolution number 1127-0518.
Second.
Thank you. All of those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, acceptance of resolution number 1127-0518. Okay, next action item, back to Director Gregory, resolution 1131-0518, having to do with city lands.
So thank you again, Mayor, council members. Really just want to kick off an open discussion of really all of our city lands needs. We have taken a pretty extensive look, be it a fairly short look, but an extensive look. It's a bad catch. But really wanted to open a discussion of what that looks like moving forward. The city lands that we are looking at, the overall large parcel that's up on the north portion of town, that is Wallace Nealon, Shelton Springs Road, 13th area, that we take a real look at what our needs are moving forward as a city. We do have fairly limited amounts of land in our possession and ownership at this point. With doing so, we did look at several different options. We have done an appraisal of a few different sections that we at this point feel that could be deemed surplus. One that we have most recently backed off of, that we feel that the city shops area would not go any other place but in this area, and really it's a matter of cost and location to move forward with that project. So we have given a few different options for projects that have gotten in front of us, and taking a look at what we could actually surplus at this point moving forward. So really would like to just open it up for questions or just a general conversation of what those lands look like and what the different options are and the surplus that could be had if at all.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to public comment.
Yes. Tom Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council members, my name is Tom Davis for the record, and I support veterans issues in Mason County. And the first thing I'd like to do, of course, is to thank you for your consideration, because part of this resolution, I am assuming, is going to be tied to the acquisition of land for the purpose of having a tiny homes village for veterans, homeless veterans, to which Mr. Lee Frazier has referred to. And I just for a second, if I can go off the rail here, just say that Mr. Frazier here, he's one of those folks who cares a great deal about veterans, and when he sits in, and the veterans homeless come to him and he has to deal with them directly, he's the real boots on the ground, so it gets to be rather emotional. So that kind of bleeds into the conversation. So sometimes when we discuss this, we all get to be a little bit emotional about it, because we've seen the consequences of these decisions and not making the decisions properly. So with that in mind, I just like to say also that it's the city's job. The city can surplus any portion of land they please, and then it's for in this case the 501(c) that's involved in construction or the proposal to construct a tiny homes village, in this case for veterans, whether or not they can accept or would like to pursue that proposal for land acquisition for that purpose. When there's a discussion that happens along one parcel and then the discussion moves to another parcel, on our end, mountains have to move. And mountains have to move because there's a whole design committee that comes into place. There is everything that gets done has a cost equivalent. And so we're not the type of people who make knee-jerk decisions on this. We're well planned out. So when we're talking about one parcel or the other parcel, it makes a huge difference to us. In this regard, we just kind of learned about it late on Friday, that there was a discussion that the piece of land that we were discussing had maybe been left out of the picture, and this new piece of land had been brought into the picture. So we were a little unprepared for this, and I'm gonna let my colleagues speak on this a little bit further. But the main thrust of what I'd like to say tonight is thank you. Thank you for considering this. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I think when all is said and done, no matter where we cite this particular project, it's going to be a legacy move for all of us, that we're going to be very, very proud of it. Now the job right here is what is the appropriate parcel of land for us to allocate. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tom.
Next, we have Mike, I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name.
No, it's Warjohn.
Ward.
Yeah, great. Mayor, City Council, thank you very much for giving me a moment to talk. You're probably tired of hearing Tom talk about this, so I thought maybe I'd come give a fresh voice to the cause. My day job is I'm a director at Port Blakely Tree Farms, and we're a company that's been in this community for 150 years. So we think long term. We think about the future and what it means to be here another 150 years. But one of my side gigs is I'm the vice president of development for Ponza, which is the Quixote community group that went to the legislature, got $3 million to take to some community and build a village. And we've picked Shelton as the village that needs that. So I think the thing for me in my experience with Quixote, the village in Olympia, and if you haven't been there, you have to go check it out. It's fantastic. The thing that really strikes me about that village is when you talk to the residents that live there, and they are residents, these are no longer homeless people, right, because they live in a house. And you say, what is the thing you like the most about living here? They will tell you, for the first time, I finally feel safe. And they are really interested in their safety. And that, by default, means that the people around them are safe, because they are policing their own neighborhood. And if you talk to the city police in Olympia, they will tell you that's the best thing that ever happened to that neighborhood. So what I think for Shelton to do this as sort of a project that really means something for the community, we've got the money in the budget. We can put 20 people to work and spend $3 million in this town tomorrow. All we need is a partner to make it happen. We need a little bit of time to do some due diligence. We need to find the right piece of property. But there is nowhere you could invest a little bit of your equity in land and have this kind of return on your investment. There simply isn't anything else you can do for economic development in this town that's going to move the needle like this. So with that, I will say thank you. And I think there's probably some good.
Thank you.
Will Johnson.
Thank you, Council, Mayor. I'm Will Johnson, 2018 Chamber Board President, here to read a letter on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce regarding the South Sound YMCA. Dear Council members, it's with great enthusiasm that I share this letter of support on behalf of the Shelton-Mason County Chamber of Commerce. We're thrilled that the South Sound YMCA is moving forward with the YMCA facility in Shelton. In February of last year, the Chamber shared its support of a community recreation facility in Shelton, citing its close alignment with our mission to encourage and maintain a vibrant business community, promote tourism, and to facilitate economic development. The Chamber was established in 1922, making us the oldest and also largest business organization in Mason County, and as such, we've been active observers of the South Sound Y's progress over the past year. We're particularly encouraged by the results of the capital campaign feasibility study, which showed what we already knew to be true. the citizens and supporters of Mason County will wholeheartedly fund a community recreation facility in Shelton. Shelton and Mason County as a whole has a long history of community support. From the first community college campus in Washington State, built with more private dollars than public dollars, parks built solely with private funds and resources. When Mason County citizens set their mind on something, it is accomplished. Along these lines, we believe a community rec center in Shelton will unite our community as well as strengthen it in many ways. We believe a community center such as this will provide our kids with the programs they deserve while serving as a cornerstone for future economic development. As the city considers land use and development, we urge you to do so thoughtfully and with intent. While we recognize agreements such as this impact the city of Shelton's long-term planning, we strongly believe that this facility aligns itself with the city's consensus goals, including economic development, community strategic visioning, and community collaboration. We suggest that you approach each request separately, weighing potential benefits alongside the city's priorities. We believe that continuing this partnership will spur economic development, create jobs, and foster interagency relationships within the community. Nationwide, the Y is the largest employer of teenagers. Utilizing youth to mentor younger ages, in addition to advantages of employment and workforce development, the Y has already cultivated a lengthy list of partners for this project, including the Shelton School District, Big Brother, Big Sister of Southwest Washington, Pack Mountain Workforce, and Mason General Hospital. The Shelton-Mason County Chamber also stands together with the South Sound YMCA Partnership in the City of Shelton. We thank you for your commitment for our great community and look forward to seeing this lease finalized. I have a copy of this letter for each of the council members that I'll leave with Vicki Look.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lee Frazier, would you like to speak?
Just one last thing. I am very emotional about this homeless issue. And a long time ago, I read in a book, and I can't remember what book, read a couple, a quote, a comment really sunk into me. And it was in a business leadership book. And what this author said was, the truly great people of this world, the truly great communities of this world become that way by how they treat the least of their citizens, not how they treat the wealthiest. And I would hope that that'll sink into your heart the way it's sunk into mine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rob Wilson Hawks.
Mayor and council members, I'm here to say thank you. This has been a bit of a long process. We have gone step by step, but we're prepared to move forward with the YMCA project. And most recently, you've been told, I believe, that we've done a study of whether we can actually do this and raise that kind of money, and the answer is yes. People think we can. This is beyond exciting for us, and we're beyond grateful to the city. One of the watershed moments came when the city contacted us and said, hey, there's this site, because that is absolutely the best site in the entire universe for the Shelton Mason County YMCA. It's close to all of those schools, including the community college. It is an opportunity for certainly economic advancement and development. And I appreciate what Will had to say about that. But it's also an opportunity for something beyond what you usually see with a Y, which is all these partnerships. And you've read about them. They're real. We intend to work together with everybody who will work with us, the hospital and the school district and so on, to make more out of what we have than we could by ourselves. So again, we're really pleased with the support we've gotten from the city, and we're going to march forward. It's not going to be easy, but we'll get it done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No more public comment.
No more comments, okay? I guess it's time for questions and comments from the council.
I'd just like to relook if there's a way we can show everybody the two parcels that we're specifically talking about tonight, just to reiterate that, to alleviate any confusion of what we're proposing to potentially surplus.
Flip this around.
I'm not sure everybody has that map in front of them that we're looking at, so.
If anybody wants. Can you put those on the screen? If anybody wants to look at.
I don't know. Come on, IT guy. Come on, Chuck.
They're right.
Mayor, as
Oh.
they're trying to get that up
Yeah.
on the screen, I just do want to reiterate tonight why we are here and having this discussion. We are not talking about individual projects. We're talking about the land that possibly could be surplus. So I just want to make that abundantly clear that that's the reason that we're discussing this. And looking at the overall city needs and what we've done in the past, and moving forward in the future, what those needs might be and what lands possibly could be surplused. And we have defined those to these couple of parcels at this point. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on what we are actually here for tonight.
And can I have you, because I know this was confusing to me, why that parcel basically went from watershed to non-watershed because of well, which makes it available for development. Is that correct?
That is correct. So we used to use spring water and surface water through the Shelton Creek watershed that flowed into what used to be the Spring House, well, still is the Spring House, that's located at K Street and 13th at the corner there. We no longer use the Spring House for drinking water. It just flows basically now down through downtown Shelton and out into the bay using Shelton Creek. So the watershed then was converted from watershed to a well protection site. So now what we have are restrictions on the radius around the well site. So you've got well 1 that is just across from the college, and wells 3 and 4 that are located across from what's labeled parcel 1 there on the options. So basically just a well protection site now, not a watershed.
Thanks, Greg.
You're welcome.
And Greg, could you briefly discuss the process as far as how we go about deeming whether a property is surplus, what steps are taken, the appraisal, et cetera? Just kind of explain that process for all of us.
So
We've heard it from you, but it'd be nice to fill everyone in.
yeah, so we did attach it within the packet, the city policy and the requirements that we have to meet. So the first thing the council would have to do is deem the property surplus. So that is the requirement now, setting a public hearing. A public hearing is required. This is watershed property. So to actually deem it surplus, set the public meeting, and then end up voting on the 19th to surplus this land. Within that, we certainly, in a normal process, we would have an appraisal. At that point, we've already done an appraisal. We actually wanted to get an overall look at all of our city lands and see what the value of them was. So we did pick 3 parcels and did an appraisal on each one of those 3 to the most southerly portion of that 120 acres. So that can be a requirement. The council actually can waive the requirement for an appraisal. And then really the final piece would be setting a final sale or lease price for that property. And I think, I'm looking at Kristen, and I don't know if she wants to speak to that or not, but I think she might be able to interject a little bit more on that legal requirement for the sale/lease of the property.
Sure. So our city policy fits nicely with Washington state statutes that talk about the surplus of land that was acquired for utility purposes. So happily, our local policy fits with the state requirements, and the state requirements make it clear that this type of property can be sold, it can be encumbered, it can be leased. So I'm interpreting our city policy that talks about sale as any number of those options that would encumber or otherwise, lease or sale, all used interchangeably. The city policy talks about achieving, and this is kind of cart in front of horse because down the road we'll talk about this, but just so it's on your radar, it will talk about achieving the greatest value for the city taxpayers. And the state statutes contemplate not just dollars, but consideration of whatever value the council finds to be most appropriate for its city taxpayers. So that's kind of the framework that we're working in. Let's see, like Craig spoke about, the process is fairly simple. We're tonight considering whether it's warranted to move towards public hearing on this question. One of the things I would suggest is just maybe a brief discussion about the analysis that's gone into this by city staff about the city's needs for use of city land and how it's concluded that these might be appropriately surplused.
That'd be appropriate.
So I know that we did talk about the city shops area, and if you look at the parcel that originally we looked at for surplus, doesn't look like that is an option at this point. It is a fairly large parcel. The thing that we have some limitations with, that is where well 1 is located. So there is that well protection area, and we certainly wanted to make sure that we didn't just abide by the 100-foot setback for that well. Just looking at future with Department of Health, if they expanded that zone and all of a sudden we had something there that we couldn't move or already had that land surplused or that portion of it surplused and not have the ability to expand, that was a concern of ours. So that is something that, looking at that larger piece that is at Spring Road and 13th, we did not feel that that was necessarily deemed surplus, would be deemed surplus at this point, that there was a need for that. And then I think Mark maybe can speak a little bit more to the needs of parks and future development even in that area above and beyond a shops area and the value to that also.
As city departments, we sat down and started looking at long-term goals and growth as identified in our comprehensive plan. We actually have population growths, and within those population growths, the state has some guidelines per se for public facilities and the needed square footage of those public facilities to identify police services, city shops, administration, and things like that. So we as not only as staff looking at what we need now and the constraints we're seeing now, but the constraints we might see in the next 10, 20, 30 years. They're not steadfast and true requirements, but they are kind of a guideline that are being utilized throughout the state. And they identified some square footage deficits within the next 8 to 10 years. It was approximately 3,000 square feet within the police department if we continue to grow as our comp plan has indicated. Another 1,200 or so square feet within the shop areas and administration and things like that. So could those be housed in this building? Potentially, but we'd be looking at, converting space, adding on, doing something different. And then where's the growth going to occur within the city of Shelton? The northern portion of the city is really where our comp plan is identifying most of our growth. The Shelton Hills area, and then the UGA boundaries, I guess, within that close proximity, kind of to the east of Shelton Hills and that area. So would it be appropriate to look at satellite facilities for police, fire to maintain levels of service, response times and things like that? So we had that discussion as a leadership team and try to look at what would happen there. Shelton Hills, if and when it does take off, there are some opportunities to work with them to provide some of these integral public facilities, but there might not be for some of our shop spaces or some of the administration spaces that we currently house here in the Civic Center. So those were some of the needs that we identified and tried to address through this process.
Just one more comment. Mark alluded to the space down here and the need for additional space. That was something after talking with Vicki and the entire leadership team. We did look at that parcel just to the south of what is defined there as parcel 2. And that long strip area there, it ends up being about 7 acres. So we looked at that for more of the administrative building that would come along with maybe a public works shop. That's really why we took a look at that overall concept of the city needs in that area instead of in one of the other areas, and really looked at why that wouldn't work to surplus at this point. But if you look at that parcel 2, it's really about the same shape as the northern part of that parcel to the south. It's got about, that parcel 2's got about 6 acres of buildable land. It's actually got about 7 acres. There's a portion, it's kind of bisected by the creek that runs through there. It is a seasonal creek. It doesn't run all the time. There is a setback to it. It's a 50-foot setback from the creek. Mark, myself, Jason Dose, and Logan Brady actually went out and walked the site and did an assessment of parcel 2. It does have about 6 acres of usable, buildable land on it, and also for some infrastructure needs underneath the power lines. Stormwater could be housed over there. Some kind of parking also could be housed over there. So looking at that, it didn't really meet the needs of any city uses for the size of it. And that's really why we looked at it being surplus. And then the parcel 1 overall look at that and the close proximity to the school, not really sure that it would work for any public works aspects as far as noise and other things go with close proximity to the junior high there. So didn't really see a use for that either. So that was the other consideration as far as surplus goes.
Question on parcel 2, Craig. You're currently using that for stockpiling and other uses, correct?
That is correct. We've got a fairly decent sized log pile up there and a large amount of pit run material that we use on projects and other uses for city needs.
So if we decide this is surplus, what would the outcome, where would that go?
Likely, we would have to get that moved by some means and methods to that piece to the south and stockpile it on the south side of Springs Road up in that area. And I would think just close proximity, that would probably be the best place to try to move that material to. We do have a use, like Mark said, most of the growth is up on the north side of town, so it makes sense to leave it up there. And frankly, we don't have another place to house it. We could, I guess, maybe take it up to the furthest north section, up across from like where the Springfield development is, but that would be problematic. There's not a lot of ingress, egress out of there. You would be crossing a walking path, a newly constructed walking path. So there's not a lot of other choices of where you would put that, but just close proximity, that would be our plan if we did move forward with surplus, is to export that material over to that parcel to the south for the immediate needs for now.
So it looks like we are safe to surplus these 2 parcels and then put the brakes on for any other city land until we find out what our needs are for the next 50 years.
That is the plan at this point. I think Vicki and the leadership team, we all recognize that we haven't done a great job at looking at our overall needs or even planning into the future. So we certainly are taking a look at that. This was a cursory look to see what we had now and what we need to move forward. That certainly could change, but we really need to take an overall look at really what our needs are and take a real comprehensive look at that. And unfortunately, we have not done that at this point. So we have taken a quick look at it and deemed a couple of sections that could be surplused, and these are the ones that we came up with.
We know that both of these parcels are going to lead to probably a YMCA and a tiny Veterans Village. I think they're both great projects. It's the right thing to do, and I'd like to move this forward to a public meeting or public hearing.
I believe that's option B, right?
I still want to caution that we're not talking about individual projects.
Right.
We're
This is
talking
just-
about surplusing of land.
Properties number 1 and 2.
Yes, correct.
Subdividing.
It would take a subdivision,
The
yes.
existing city properties 1 and 2 properties 1 and 2.
With no
for
names on them yet, just to surplus them.
That will be a decision that the council will have to make after
Right.
we get through what is the city policy and deem this surplus. And then we would have to make a decision of how to utilize that property.
Yeah.
Is everyone on board to move forward? Any
With
questions?
option B. There's 3
Okay.
options.
Okay.
We did leave it open for you for
Yes.
that discussion. We didn't know where this would head to, so we did leave 3 different options open
Yeah.
to the council.
Option A is just surplus of property 1. Option B, surplus of property 1 and 2. And option C, just surplus of property 2.
Okay.
And I'm on board with option B as well, surplusing of properties 1
All
and
right,
2.
so let's ask for reading of resolution 11310518, which does have option B in it.
There you go.
Resolution number 1131-0518, a resolution of the City of Shelton, Washington, declaring certain real estate under city ownership surplus to the needs of the city.
Thank you, Donna. We have a motion.
I move to adopt resolution number 1131-0518, deeming city real estate, option B, surplus for the needs of the city and setting the date of the public hearing for June 19th, 2018.
Second?
Second. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, resolution passes. On to administration reports. City Manager Vicki Look.
Thank you. I noticed that several of you mentioned you are going to be coming to the open house tomorrow night at 6 p.m. It's out there, and it's to talk about the downtown connector project. We're trying to reach out to the public and make sure that they know what's going on, and happy to hear that you're going to be attending that open house tomorrow night. I did have a report from the chief. He would like to give you a little bit of an update on an incident that occurred today.
Thank you, Vicki. Just to give you, it's a small town, word gets around. We've had a couple instances in the last weekend and this today that officers were injured, and I just want to give an update to you that both officers are home, they're fine. The first one was officers arresting a subject downtown here. The subject broke loose and dove into Goldsboro Creek. The officers dove in to get him out. He was handcuffed, so it's pretty significant that we make sure he gets out of that creek. During that, the suspect kept fighting with the officers, potentially broke the officer's hand. He was treated and released at the hospital. They don't think it's broken. They're going to do some follow-up with that. The second one was today up near the high school. One of our officers suffered an emergency medical incident while he was driving, put his car into an embankment. That officer was seen at the hospital and released today. He's home fine with lots of follow-up to do with that. So I just wanted to give everybody the same answer so that everybody understands where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, at our briefings earlier, there was a request for updates on a few of our projects that are happening right now, and so I'll ask Craig to update us on Basin 3.
So Basin 3, we actually are out to construction, have moved off of Northcliffe Development and downtown. So I will give you a quick update and open it up for any questions. We are about 15% complete with Basin 3 project. We have some of the key points so far in just the few weeks of being out there during construction. About a little over 1,000 feet of 8-inch sewer main, 143 feet of 12-inch sewer main, 18 PVC sanitary sewer laterals in the right-of-way, and 244 linear feet of PVC sewer pipe on private property. We have not run into too many issues, a few with the project, but as you can imagine, digging in downtown Shelton, you are going to run into a few. One of the major issues that we are having at this point that we're trying to find resolution to the problem is side sewers off of the main, so laterals heading to houses in the north downtown Shelton area. I did discuss with Vicki today, we are having some issues with getting all of those in. The requirement per the contract is to get those laterals within 2 feet of any structure. The issue we've got is down in those areas, quite a few garages, decks, concrete slabs have been constructed, and permitted or not, the location, some of those garages, quite a few of them, actually we went through and did a count today, about 50 to 60% have structures that are built on top of the sewer laterals. So to get those to the actual house where you would do the connection normally is posing a little bit of an issue. So we have looked at some other options, cured in place laterals, which is basically a liner that is pulled up the side lateral and then cured in place with either compressed air, hot water, some different options for that. That option is very, very expensive. We got a proposal from the contractor. Looks like it would be a change of somewhere in the neighborhood of $250,000 to around $350,000 to do about 100 of those side laterals. So we are looking at different options. We're looking at pipe bursting and some other options, but we certainly want to make sure that we get all of those laterals to the houses. Some of them actually cross their neighbor's property, so private property going to a house, so that also poses an issue if that neighbor doesn't want us to dig up their front yard and cross their yard and doesn't give us the ability to cross and get to the house maybe behind where their house is. So with cammering and other issues when we were going through design, it was some unforeseen issues that we couldn't have seen looking back, but we actually did go and camera all of the main. We thought we knew where every lateral was at, but at this point with some of the older plumbing that's in that area, it's a little interesting out there when you actually look at some of the plumbing that was done in the 30s, 40s, 50s, or even further back. They didn't necessarily always take just a straight line out to the main. So,
Have you had any trouble with tree roots, trees?
oh, a ton, yes. A bunch of tree roots.
That's what happened at our house years ago.
Yeah, we've had issues with that. Those are pretty easy to fix, though.
Right.
It's just basically a plugged up line that would be existing now that we're replacing with new. And that's really what we have a concern with if we don't get within 2 feet of the house, that we leave some of those decaying sewer laterals that are out there. So we are looking for a fix, hopefully a much cheaper fix than what was proposed at this point. But it is something that we will have to address at this point. But other than that, the main line and most of the other aspects of the project have been moving right along, and they are working diligently downtown along with the downtown connector project that got started actually today. They got out there and did some saw cutting on Alder Street and Olympic Highway North, so we will give a much more, a better briefing on that tomorrow night at the downtown connector public meeting at 6 o'clock. So
The cure in place side sewer is the worst case sort of scenario right now for cost wise, and does that eats pretty much the contingency that would be left for that, or?
we have used some of the contingency already.
Okay.
We had an issue with dewatering in the area, and the way that the contractor was going to dewater, the groundwater level down there is very high. So we did eat some of that already. And yes, it would be worst case scenario. The issue that we've got, as Kathy mentioned, with tree roots, CIPP cured in place is difficult. You have to first go in and root cut every lateral, if it is still intact, to make sure that you have a surface that you can actually push a liner through to cure it. You can't have it full of roots and then pull that liner through. So you have to go in inspect every lateral. You have to go in and root cut the ones that need it, which the majority of them do need it down in that area. Landscaping, just older trees. It's just an issue down there that we knew it was coming, but we were trying to account for it and didn't quite get, I think, all of them within the design. So we are looking at other options. The good thing is we did have a fairly decent quantity that we had for open trench. We did estimate at 80 feet, and it is per foot price on private property laterals. So we did build in a fairly decent contingency in the actual open trench portion. So we're actually looking at a cost analysis of what it would cost for savings, because you also have quite a bit of restoration with open trench if you dig across somebody's lawn through their landscaping, a concrete patio that you would have to go in and cut, whatever that might be. So there is a cost for restoration, where with CIPP, basically you open up an area right and a receiving pit at the house, which would be a fairly small hole in comparison to the overall project, at the house and one at the main. And basically you just need 2 receiving pits, one to send the liner through, the other to actually capture it at the other end, so you don't have a lot of restoration. So that could be a cost savings for us. So we actually started to work through this today and didn't get all the way through it. So we are taking a look at it, and we'll certainly bring that briefing back to you and let you know kind of what we came up with in the future. But so there may be some cost savings in some of the restoration also. So it may not be as bad as we initially thought, but I'm going to give you worst case scenario at this point, and then we'll be back to give you some good news, hopefully.
Okay.
Craig, will the blacktopping up on North Cliff be done later on as well? Or can it be done while they're working downtown, or is it all going to be done at the end?
It's not all, at least what they've told us so far is it's not all going to be done at the end. They're going to get enough quantity so that they don't just build it all up and it takes them, 4 months to come in and pave everything. They want to do it in sections, but really what they're talking about doing is in like thirds or fourths. So they're trying to get enough downtown to make North Cliff economically viable for them. So I don't imagine that North Cliff is too far off. They have been doing quite a bit downtown, so I think their quantities are getting to a point now where they may be doing some
Somebody up there asked me, but also the Connector Street project, will the blacktopping for that will be after the Basin 3 blacktopping? Is that, or is it be about the same time, or what do you think about that?
Well, it could be because if Basin 3 starts soon with some of the paving, they likely or obviously will get started earlier than the downtown connector project.
Right.
But what we heard from the launch construction is that they are looking to get some kind of pavement on the ground before the rainy season actually hits us this year, and then finish up next spring. I think that's fairly aggressive, but we'll see if they can get there. They are pretty hopeful that they will, but at this point, I don't know how many crews they're bringing in, but I'm guessing they're going to be fairly aggressive on trying to get that, at least the first lift done this fall, and then wait until next spring to do the actual final lift on the project.
And all the cutting will be done on Alder Street before the connector project gets blacktopped.
Well, we do have a 5-year no-cut ordinance.
Okay.
So we right now are dealing with that on Lake Boulevard. We had an issue where we didn't stub out a sewer line to a vacant lot on Lake Boulevard. And unfortunately, we are not going to approve a proposed project up in that area because we do have a 5-year no-cut ordinance on new roads. So as soon as we construct those roadways, at least under my watch, nobody is going to get into those for the next 5 years. So we are going to have a new road for at least 5 years.
Craig, quick update on Turner.
Turner, the contract had been awarded. They are looking at waiting until a little later out into the summer. They do have a 45-day construction window. They figure that it's only going to take them about 2 or 3 weeks to actually do that work. It's a fairly easy process. They're going to go and grind the road, shape it, and then pave it. So, but they are waiting until a little later in the summer to actually start construction, thinking that they've got the 45 days after we give them the notice to proceed. So they should be getting started, I'm guessing, in the next month or so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and our council members did ask also what's going on with the hospital and a little bit of an update about the schools, and that's back to you two guys over there.
I'll kick us off. All the school projects are currently in the final phases of review. The new school projects, Mountain View and SHS, are with the state fire marshal for final review. We're waiting upon them, basically, for final wrap-up. Building review has essentially been complete. There's some back and forth with the architects to clean up some of the design elements, but we're really, and I talked to Fire Marshal Chief Patty today. He was hoping to get the letter from the state fire marshal today, as a matter of fact. So we should see it this week and be able to wrap up those projects. The other kind of, I guess, smaller projects, but at Choice, Bordeaux, Evergreen, and those should be wrapped up as well. And so we should see those permits issued in the next week or two with them. Hospital staff has been talking with them regularly over the last several weeks. We don't have a submittal at this point other than some land use, SEPA application. So planning staff will be getting that put together and putting on a public notice for that project. And we hope to have building permits applied for in the next couple weeks as well.
Where is that building going to be built?
It's proposed, again, we don't have final plans. Our discussions, though, are, it's on their campus on kind of the east side out on 13th Street. So it border 13th Street, just, I guess, southeast of the existing main building.
Okay.
So we have been also talking to them about their impact fees. That was an issue with them. Originally, they had a traffic impact fee of about $800,000.
The hospital?
Yes, for their expansion. They have come to us, and I think we've got a tentative agreement at this point as far as traffic impact fees. They are looking at zoning a few of their buildings that are up there now that they own, and also demoing one of those, which would reduce their traffic impact fee. So there's a building that's right up in the front on 13th Street that they are demoing for the construction of that building. So that would take off the total amount of square footage that they have that's affecting their traffic impact fee. So we did meet with them again this morning, and like I said, I think at this point, rezoning a few of their buildings and demoing one of those to reduce that traffic impact fee, and then also working with them on, they have requested the vacation of Mountain View Drive and also Govey Street, which are to the north, just south of K Street. So basically the entrance to the middle school, and then the road that connects 13th to Sherwood Lane. They have asked for a vacation at this point for a parking lot, and at this point it is not the city's recommendation that we move forward with that vacation. We're a little hung up on public benefit and the amount of compensation that may come with that that street, and we can't really get there with public benefit right now. So we did propose one idea to them this morning that was a land swap for some additional land, maybe to compensate the city and the overall needs of the city for a piece of land that's a bare piece of land at this point. And they didn't say no to the idea. They did appreciate us looking at other options to try and move forward a project that the city does feel that it would be a benefit overall to their project to have more parking up there. but just couldn't quite get there for the overall benefit of the citizens of Shelton. So we are still working with them on that portion of it.
Well, as you can see, we're pretty busy. So, but that ends the reports that we were requested to provide tonight.
Thanks, Vicki. I guess at this point, our next meeting, we're going to adjourn to executive session. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, June 5th at 7 p.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you.